the best treatment for that we know exists is to do gender confirmation via hormones. And
you know that doesn't affect the suicide rate. The suicide rate for trans people is very high, post-op and pre-op. Really doesn't get affected by whether or not you treat them.
Well, the operation,
the question can be,
is
why is that? Is that because they're not accepted by society and we're not more loving? Could it be underlying issues that are causing them to feel this way in the first place? Like, what is it? We don't know, and I'm sure it varies widely.
It's been a long time since we dropped one of these breakdowns. But today we're back with a full power lineup, diving straight into the most intense moments where Joe Rogan goes head-to-head with guests bold enough to bring woke ideology into his studio. Rogan keeps his tone calm and grounded, relying on expert insights, direct questions, and clear logic to unpack arguments that fall apart the moment they're challenged. The heat in these exchanges is nuclear. The reality checks land hard, and the cringe is off the charts as confidence slowly turns into confusion. These moments highlight exactly why so many viewers tune in for Rogan's unfiltered, honest approach to conversation. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready to jump straight into the chaos as we kick things off with actor and writer Adam Conover. Bold claims meet cold, hard facts.
Look, so all I can do is defer to the experts that I know about this, right? So,
what happens when your worldview suddenly takes a vacation from reality? Everything stops. You freeze mid-sentence, your thoughts collide, your confidence drains, and your brain short-circuits while you desperately search for an escape route. In that moment, you're not debating anymore, you're questioning every decision that led you to sit in that studio. Under those lights, wondering why you ever agreed to appear on that podcast in the first place.
It's a choice blockers. It's a choice on the part of the parent. It's not a choice on the part of the child to in the same way that being gay isn't a choice. Yeah.
Okay, but if that's who they are, if they think that they're a girl, why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl?
Because. I'm sorry, can you expand on the question?
It's a simple question.
Adam Conover starts off defending why kids should transition, confidently laying out his points until Joe Rogan drops a single question that jolts him back to reality. Watch closely as Conover stumbles, hesitates, and struggles to navigate the answer, revealing cracks in his argument that he didn't expect to face.
If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones.
Mm-hmm.
If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. Like, you don't have, why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body. You're choosing to inject things into this child's body on a regular basis that are going to radically affect the physical development of their body.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
So what trans people express, and again, I'm not an expert. This is from me talking to my trans friends and seeing what other trans folks say.
Oh, so now he's suddenly not an expert on trans issues. How convenient. I'm not an expert is usually code for I really have no idea what I'm talking about. And that moment hits like a spotlight, exposing the cracks in confidence. Just a few minutes earlier, he was speaking with absolute certainty, defending hormone blockers for kids like he had a PhD in gender studies, as if every word he said was gospel. But the second Joe Rogan asks a question that steps outside the prepared talking points and forces real critical thinking, suddenly he retreats, humbled and hesitant, revealing the limits of his argument. It's a classic pattern. Speak with unwavering confidence until reality shows up and blows the act apart. And when you dig a little deeper, isn't this more of a psychological issue than a physiological one? At some point, all the rhetoric, all the deflections, and all the rapid-fire talking does more to confuse the audience than persuade them. If a child feels disconnected from their own body, the logical first step should be therapy, a chance to explore identity, emotions, and personal development in a safe, professional environment rather than rushing into irreversible medical interventions, especially for children whose brains and sense of self are still forming. Yet, in today's social climate, even suggesting a child see a psychologist has become controversial, as if encouraging thoughtful reflection and professional guidance is somehow offensive. It's as though common sense has been recast as bigotry, and clarity is treated like a provocation. Watching this unfold, you can see how isolated ideology can cloud judgment, and how critical thinking.com questioning and evidence-based discussion, exactly what Rogan brings to the table, can expose the cracks in even the most confident arguments.
If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones. If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. Like, you don't have, why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body. You're choosing to inject things into this child's body on a regular basis that are going to radically affect the physical development of their body. And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
So what trans people express, and again, I'm not an expert. This is from me talking to my trans friends and seeing what other trans folks say.
Boom. Just like that, Rogan drops another fact bomb. Research shows that transgender individuals are not necessarily less likely to attempt suicide after gender-affirming surgery. In fact, several long-term studies suggest the opposite. Post-surgery, some may be more prone to suicidal thoughts or actions. The takeaway is clear: the root of the issue isn't purely physiological. It's psychological, emotional, and profoundly complex, demanding careful consideration, therapy, and support rather than a one-size-fits-all approach.
If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones. If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. Like, you don't have, why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body. You're choosing to inject things into this child's body on a regular basis that are going to radically affect the physical development of their body. And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
And just like that, Adam Conover slinked away, tail between his legs, completely deflated and exposed. It had to be painfully humiliating. He walked in brimming with confidence, armed to the teeth with buzzwords, talking points, and virtue signals, convinced he could take on Joe Rogan. But the moment Rogan countered with facts, logic, and unapologetic common sense, Conover folded faster than a lawn chair at a barbecue. It's always the same story. Loud and confident at first, dead silent when actually challenged. That's the risk of leaning on woke talking points without doing the homework, without grounding your arguments in evidence and reason. You end up looking like a hashtag in a debate, flashy but hollow. And now, with the room tense and the points laid bare, Rogan delivers the hammer blow, leaving no doubt who owns the conversation.
At this point in the conversation, I would say, like, hey, man, I just got to bone up on, on that particular, because I don't want to speak to suicide rates.
My entire concern is with children. My concern is not with young adults deciding to take steps to confirm their gender identity, who they feel they really are.
Kids are constantly changing their minds. It's part of growing up. One day they dream of becoming astronauts. The next day, zookeepers. Today it's ice cream. Tomorrow pizza. It's not their fault. Their brains are still developing. Emotions run wild, and they're only beginning to understand the world around them. That's exactly why letting them make permanent, life-altering decisions at such a young age isn't just irresponsible, it's dangerous. We don't let kids vote, drink, get tattoos, or sign legal contracts for a reason. They lack the maturity and foresight to fully grasp long-term consequences. So why are we suddenly okay with letting them make irreversible medical choices that could affect their mental and physical health for life? Children deserve protection, guidance, and thoughtful support, not blind affirmation of confusion. It's the responsibility of adults to lead, educate, and safeguard their well-being, not to follow trends that could permanently derail a child's future. After Rogan called out Adam Conover on hormone blockers, Conover quickly pivoted to a different topic, leaving the audience to wonder if the conversation would ever return to facts, logic, and real accountability.
As you grow and mature and develop, you growing out of these ideas. Some will and some won't. And the ones who won't, they always have the option to do something later on in life. But if you do something to hormonally block a child very, very early on, there's no turning back from that.
One thing I've consistently noticed about woke activists is their obsession with verbosity. They rarely answer a question directly or clearly. Instead, they bury straightforward points under mountains of academic-sounding jargon, buzzwords, and complex phrasing, as if the sheer volume of words automatically makes their arguments smarter or more credible. But more often than not, it's just smoke and mirrors, a tactic to distract, impress, or confuse the audience, rather than to communicate anything meaningful. Take Adam Conover, for example. The question Rogan asked was simple, something that could have been answered in a single, clear sentence. Instead, Conover launched into a long-winded explanation, full of qualifiers, tangents, and phrases designed to sound authoritative, but ultimately failing to convey a clear point. The audience was left sifting through a wall of words to find the actual meaning, while Rogan patiently dismantled the overcomplicated rhetoric with calm, direct questioning. It's a pattern that repeats itself often, loud, confident, verbose at first, and silent or flustered when the conversation demands real critical thinking. Watching it unfold, you can see how style can sometimes be mistaken for substance and why clarity, simplicity, and evidence always win in a debate.
It's a good question. I think we're really going to go through like a cultural change on how we think about that, and it's morphing so quickly, you know what I mean? I'm very much, because I am of this opinion that there is no such thing as like perfect fairness, and when we make those distinctions, we're always choosing who to allow, and because I think we should choose to allow like trans people to participate in society.
All that verbosity, all the twists and turns, only to land on the same tired conclusion. Trans people should be allowed in sports. It almost feels like the goal is to confuse the audience on purpose. And it really makes you wonder if all the verbal gymnastics are necessary just to make a point. How strong is the argument really? What are they trying to hide behind all that fluff, buzzwords, and overcomplicated phrasing? When you strip it down, the clarity disappears, leaving more questions than answers and exposing the cracks in an argument built on style over substance.
He launched into a lecture filled with buzzwords, circular logic, and vague emotion.
There's a reason why we make the distinction to have male athletics versus female athletics. The reason is that males have a physiological advantage over women. So in most sports, most physical sports, we do not have males compete with females. Do those same physiological advantages apply? And what is the evidence? Well, the evidence in competition seems to be that it shows that it does apply, particularly in weightlifting, rugby, mountain biking, power heavy sports that favor larger people, stronger bodies. Males that transition to females have a significant advantage in their breaking world record.
A serious conversation about what kind of guns and bullets people can have. Not that they can have them or that they can't have. Like, that's the conversation. That's where we should be right now. Everything gets regulated. Everything. There are trade-offs in healthcare. There are trade-offs in everything. But Americans now are so divided. They want everything that they want. That compromise is something that we don't do as Americans, much less in government. That's preposterous.
What I'm saying about the gun thing, the most fucked up part about the messiness of the gun thing is that even if you made guns illegal, even if you said you can't have any bullets, you'll all go to jail. There's so many guns. You're not getting them all. It's not possible. There's more guns than there are people, which means there's more than 30 million guns
there are
in this country alone.
You are associating me with this, and you are attempting to get me
No, I'm asking
cancelled
you to
effectively.
distance yourself from that. Is
But
actually what I'm trying to do.
But that's not what you're doing.
I do not
You don't
see this as
think that?
propaganda.
Look at the way it's phrased on
Okay.
your article. This sort of race science is outdated and long since debunked, especially given the strong links between Atlantis and Aryans proposed by several Nazi archaeologists. That's like a part of the headline.
You want me to show you some tweets I've gotten from
Right.
people that are
I
fans of Graham Hancock
No. Listen, stop. Don't do that. They're not connected to him. They're just human.
Once again, Rogan floors his guests with cold, hard facts and undeniable logic. Science is clear. Biological males have significant physiological advantages over females' greater muscle mass, bone density, lung capacity, and more. And yes, many of these advantages persist even after hormone therapy, which is why trans women who are still biologically male often outperform their female counterparts in sports. Yet the woke crowd wants us to ignore biology in favor of ideology, insisting these differences don't exist, all in the name of inclusion. The outcome? Female athletes who have trained their entire lives end up losing podiums, scholarships, and opportunities they've worked tirelessly to earn. This isn't progress, it's regression, dressed up in shiny rhetoric. Fairness in sports isn't about feelings, it's about facts. No amount of performative outrage can change that. And with the debate still heating up, Rogan moves on to his next guest, comedian Pete Dominic, ready to navigate the next round of hot button topics.